It's time. Formula 1 is back. After 3 days of not knowing who's going to be the fastest over one lap pace, we now have to wait 3 practice sessions to find out who might be fastest over one lap pace. Formula 1 is back. So, after waiting through 3 days of testing, F1 is back, and this show has begun. Welcome to Connor F1, and this is my review of the 2024 Bahrain Grand Prix. And yes, I am an Aussie. Deal with it. Just like how every non-European or non-American have to deal with waking up at 2 AM to watch any of these goddamn races. This is not okay. Help me. So, let us get into FP1. Where for the first time we really get to see who's fastest out on track and Daniel Ricciardo sets the fastest lap. Well, that didn't last long. Ricky Bobby somehow showed the world that the Visa Cash App RBPH car can somehow have some pace. And this wasn't a fluke, as Yuki Tsunoda, his teammate, finished for P4 in this session, with both teammates making an RB sandwich with McLaren filling of Norris and Piastri in second and third respectively. Nothing much happened this session, which made my life harder, but there were some teething problems for the Alpines, something we'll have to get used to this season, and Max Verstappen abusing his engineer over the radio to give us some false hope that we might see a close fight up front. Good times. Moving on to FP2, in which we seem to be getting some more false hope, but this time in the form of the silver and black arrows from Ferrari's new first driver, Hamilton, in P1, and Hamilton's new pet dog, Russell, in P2. Closely followed by Fernando Alonso, showing that an old dog doesn't need to learn new tricks, I suppose. As FP2 usually has weather conditions closest to qualifying, all drivers are pushing the limits of both the cars and the track, until turns 1, 4, and especially the final corner being main places of issues for the drivers. Not that Leclerc really cared much, as he was complaining about other cars getting in the way of his fast laps. Weird that it wasn't Ferrari this time. FP3 had all cars running softs at top speed, with surprisingly the smooth operator of Sainz taking FP3 pole by a 1/10.5 of a second, again followed by Alonso and Verstappen in third. It seems Red Bull has finally started to pull out the sandbags out of his car. Besides this though, we head straight into qualifying, with Q1 in which it seems as though not much has changed at the bottom of the pecking order, with both beef-built cars and Logan, WTF as a kilometre sergeant, at the bottom 5, but this time joined by both the Alpines of Ocon and Gasly. Bloody hell, no wonder there's no paint on their cars. If they did have some, they'd probably be getting lapped before the race even started. Q2, on the other hand, seemed a lot more normal, with the Williams of Albon, the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, and the two AlphaTauris, V-carb cars out, with Yuki beating his teammate by a 1/10.5 of a second. Oh, and Stroll was there, I guess. Not much has changed, really. This, of course, leads us to Q3, where it seems even more like 2024 is just 2023 2.0, as the first runs left off Max on provisional pole, but with Leclerc only half a tenth behind in second. Then, for some reason, Aston Martin decided to take Alonso back to his Ferrari days with this weird decision to have Alonso do a one run out on track with no other cars. Then again, if Stroll was out on track with Alonso, he probably would have been slowing him down in the straights. So this just leaves the final runs. Can Leclerc get closer to Verstappen and take pole, or can someone else take the pole away? Oh no. No, he's gone 2/10 faster than anyone else. Great. I would also like to point out the fact that Nico Hülkenberg somehow got that shitbox of a Haas out of Q1 and Q2 and into Q3. Like, what do they put in his engine? But he shouldn't get our hopes up, as what the last few years have showed us is that Haas can't save tyres for the life of them. And as the cars line up on the grid for the first race of the season, all the teams waited to see who will truly be the fastest. Could somebody beat Verstappen off the line? 5 red lights, and it's lights out and away we go, and Verstappen's already a second ahead of the field by lap 2. Well, let's be real here, folks. With how good the Red Bull looked in practice and qualifying, should we really be surprised? This was a question of not if, but when. Just like Lance Stroll spinning at turn 1. As Stroll was spinning to the back of the pack, with Hulkenberg Hulk smashing his front wing into the pit lane, all the cars began to scrap for positions. With McLaren deciding that they weren't going to be shit for the first race like they were last year, Alonso decided to fall down the grid, seemingly looking like last year's heroics were not going to be repeated this year. Charles was facing his own problems as well, with the car locking up and sliding all over the track, and this allowed Osama bin Russell to storm past and take second place off of the slow monogasque. This continued to hamper Leclerc, with him locking up at turn 10, allowing Checo to drag racing into turn 11 and lose yet another position. But this continued as his teammate Carlos Sainz, looking to make his last year at Ferrari good, decided to, as Alex Albon would put it, race him hard to pass the monogasque into turn 1. This ended with the first round of pit stops, in which the order began to be jumbled up, with Sainz falling behind Leclerc as Perez, fighting to keep his Red Bull seat, decided to overtake Russell and make it a Red Bull 1-2. Sainz once again showed how bad Leclerc was under braking by dive-bombing Leclerc and also overtaking Russell a couple of laps later. He's really the smooth operator. As the next round of pit stops began, Stake decided to take Bottas back to Monaco by giving him a slow pit stop and no front left tyre. Maybe to see if he picked up any of those three-wheel driving talents from Hamilton back in Silverstone. With the top 3 locked in, something we will again have to get used to this year, Russell began to fall down towards the slow-moving Leclerc as Russell began having his own engine problems. This led to Russell recreating Leclerc's lock-up at turn 10 and allowing Leclerc to make up the position at turn 11. I also think we should point out that Alonso was somehow behind Stroll after the pit stops, having to pass him again for the first and probably the last time this year. As the race neared its end, all eyes looked to the battle for 12th. Okay, look, this shows how boring the race really was, but it was still an interesting case, as it was the 2 Toro Rosso repaints battling Kevin Magnussen, who was actually putting up a pretty good race, all things considered. With Daniel behind Yuki on soft tyres, he was trying to get team orders in place to allow him to go past Yuki to go on to fight Magnussen. But with the team deciding to allow this to happen with only 5 laps left, when the actual changeover only happening with 3 laps left, this meant Daniel's tyres were completely dead by the time he was even close behind Magnussen, giving him no chance to overtake and not get the position. And all this for 12th. And with that, Max Verstappen goes on to win the Bahrain Grand Prix. Yep, nothing's changed. This has really continued his winning ways from last year, with Perez making it a 1-2, something we might not get used to this year, and Sainz coming up a close 3rd behind Checo. And as the fireworks began to go off the end of the race, fireworks were alight in the V-Card team as Yuki and Daniel almost made contact after the race. It looks like the fight for that second Red Bull seat will be hotter than we first pictured. So, this was the Bahrain Grand Prix. Yes, it wasn't the best, or it wasn't the worst, but it also wasn't the best start to the season, but I will still be making videos and keeping up to date with each race. So, I've been Connor, and thank you for watching, and please make sure to like and subscribe to this video, and so I can continue making these. Thank you, signing out.